Even more pressing is the plight of the state's most famous critter, the Tasmanian devil. A rare, contagious facial cancer is threatening to wipe out the species within 10 years. The suspicion is that poisons used in forestry and agriculture could be the cause.
Tasmania's entering a very worrying phase if you're an ecologist. We're almost looking into the abyss. We're starting to have this opening gap in the carnivore system which is bound to produce instability, and it's bound to give opportunities to exotic species, invasive species such as feral cats, and worst of all, such as foxes.
Now you can see old growth forest here, just magnificent old growth forest. That's eagle habitat, habitat for other rare and endangered species like the tiger quoll and the Tasmanian devil, and suddenly this wall of destruction. Everything's black, there's nothing alive.
But Bob, what we're seeing down here is economic progress, isn't it?
This is opportunity lost. We don't have to do this.
Enter the old warrior. Senator Bob Brown made his name fighting for the Franklin River in the early 80s. And now he's heading into battle again, out to stop the pulp mill and the clear felling of forests to feed it. Bob believes Tasmania can generate far more money from ecotourism than slash and burn logging. 10 to 20,000 hectares a year is logged like this, in this manner.
It's being logged like this and converted into plantations, and the forest is lost forever. We won't ever get it back.
What do you think the pulp mill will mean for Tasmania?
The pulp mill will mean that Tasmania is locked into industrial logging like they have in Indonesia and Brazil for 20 or 30 years at least. And with that, we're going to see the march of clearfell logging and destruction of the ancient forests of this island and their wildlife.
But 45% of the state is already locked up in reserves. How much do you want? How much would make you happy?
That's, of course, a twisting of figures, because the prime forests are largely in the hands of the loggers. And when it comes to the grandest forest of the lot, the Eucalyptus regnans, 11% is left. And they want to take more than half of that. Their greed knows no bounds.
This forest was clear-felled and burnt in 1969. It was regenerated using the same species that were present on the site before it was logged. You've got blackwood, myrtle, celery top, tree ferns, Dixonia antarctica. They've all come back and regrown the site.
Back on the other side of the divide, we tried to speak to Guns, the company behind the pulp mill, but they refused an interview. Instead, the talking was left to Bob Gordon, the bureaucrat who runs Forestry Tasmania. This pulp mill is going to use, it's said, around about 4.5 million tonnes a year. It's an incredibly hungry beast, isn't it?
The proposal for the pulp mill is to only use those wood chips that otherwise would have been exported to Japan or China or Korea.
Are you telling me that the rate of logging will not be increased because of this pulp mill?
Correct. What will happen is the forest can only be cut at the sustainable level.
How confident are you that the pulp mill won't pollute?
The new clean green pulping technology has improved out of sight from what it was 20 years ago. And I've certainly been to lots of towns where people are happy that they and the tourism and fishing industry can live comfortably with pulp mills.
I don't think you do yourself any credit at all.
Which brings us back to State Premier Paul Lennon. He's a man in a hurry, especially when it comes to getting the pulp mill off the ground.
Premier, first the BBC, then the ABC, now Channel 9. All we want to do is ask you a few questions and please get a few straight answers.
The Premier was in such a rush, he fast-tracked an assessment process that should have taken years in just 6 weeks.
I'm not being rude, sir.
I think you're very rude, first.
That followed the resignations of 3 key advisors on the pulp mill who quit, complaining of political interference.
I'd just like to get a few straight answers, please. If it's so beneficial, why is it so secretive?
Thanks very much.
Is it your relationship with guns, sir?
It certainly is a touchy subject, but there are good people and compelling arguments on both sides of this debate. And even after spending a week down here, I've got to admit I'm stumped. Depending on who you listen to, the pulp mill will either be an environmental catastrophe or guarantee Tasmania's very future.
Politicians and guns are saying none of this beauty will be affected by the pulp mill. Do you trust them?
Yes, of course I trust them. I've trusted them for the last 30 years that I've been logging with them. They wouldn't ruin the beauty of this state. I can't see it just to line their own pockets. Of course it's not going to happen.
It's not just that the forests give us oxygen to breathe and take in the carbon dioxide which we put out. There's a much deeper relationship here. We've got a choice here. Are we going to pulp the future, or are we going to value the beauty of this island and hand that on to our children?